Hello and welcome to the 30k channel dedicated to games set in the HORUS Heresy. I'm your host, as always, David Brains, and we have returning favourite Danny. Good morning, Danny.
Hello, how you doing, Dave?
Are you well?
Very well.
Excellent. Really pleased to have Danny back. We saw him a year ago, needed Custodes back on the channel, and here he is. And now Spencer.
Hello.
From Phosphix Party. Now, you've seen Spencer in Adeptus Titanicus, but this is your first 30k game, yes?
It is, yes. I've been wanting to come on for a while now, but yeah, good opportunity.
Excellent news, excellent news. Now, last time Danny was on the channel, he said to me, I've got loads of stuff, I'm painting loads of bits and bobs, and I said, I'd really love to feature an Orion on the battlefield, and you've got one, haven't you? You've got an Orion.
Okay.
I just thought it'd be a fantastic opportunity to get that flyer in. We've not really seen one on before. And so I came up with a really bonkers idea that maybe we could use the Orion as a terrain piece and try and work it into a mission. And Danny and Spencer have been really gracious in sort of allowing me to kind of explore an idea ahead of my head. So so thank you so much for letting me do that.
No, I'm really looking forward to that, actually.
It's going to be cool, and I will explain it very shortly. But first of all, let's just say thank you to Danny and Spencer for both coming down. Spencer, you've come from Leicester, so not too far.
No.
But Danny, Leeds this morning, though. He's put a really great effort in. Early morning start for him. He's been fed and watered, so hopefully he's good, ready to go. And I have to say as well, you know, the channel's all about quality. We've got two really, really lovely looking forces. So testament to your ability, gents. They're fantastic.
Almost polar opposites, really, as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to draw attention to one thing. We've got clear bases. Now, I'm a massive fan of clear bases. I think they're the way forward myself.
Controversial to some, aren't they?
Very controversial, yeah. I think we discussed this the last time you were on.
There's definitely going to be a split, isn't there? There's going to be a split in opinion there.
I think they're the way forward. I really do. I mean, they just make absolute sense. And you'll see later on, we've got a dual board today. We're playing in Zone Mortalis and on a 6x4. And it just makes sense. Clear bases.
You want anything? Sure. Yeah, whereas mine going to look rubbish in the Zone Mortalis board, aren't they?
You've brought the mud in with you. That's all.
Yeah, that's a rule. We don't wipe our feet when we go in. That's when we go indoors. That's what we do.
I need to make some rugs or some mats to wipe your feet on as you go down in. But
Iron Warriors will just ignore that anyway.
Exactly. That's what the servitors are there for, to clean up after dirty feet. Anyway, so that's that out of the way with. Now, originally, this game was just going to be the Custodes running an Iron Warriors gun line to escape off-world via the Orion. Mm-hmm. Really like the idea of that. Custodes are super tough. Iron Warriors have got the firepower potentially to halt that advance. But I just thought a gun line would be a little bit boring, and I just thought it'd be a little bit, again, a little bit boring. So I thought, I was in the shower this morning quite early, rubbing myself down with the old loofah on my back. I
think that's already more than we need to know.
All right, sorry. And I said to myself, I need to make it a bit more interesting. And I've always wanted to do like a dual board for a long time. And it just came to me how we were going to do that. So if you're happy for me to explain the premise of the mission, gents.
Absolutely, right? Go for it. Take it away.
So Valdor is leading the Custodes. He's the top guy.
Yep.
He's a top man. And Valdor has been sent in for a very specific mission because he's the top man. And he's going to recover a document, a handwritten document signed by some important governor of the world or something like really important to the effort of the loyalists. Sent in personally to retrieve the document. He's achieved his mission and now he needs to get off-world. Penarabo has sent orders to the Iron Warriors. You need to stop that document getting off-world and ultimately stop Valdor from getting off the planet. So what we've got is, because Valdor is such a clever bloke, he's gone, I know what I'm going to do. This document's super important. I'm going to tear it in half, split it between my force, and we're going to take a sneaky route under the world in like a water treatment plant, I guess. And then we're going to merge at the top, on the landing pad next to the Orion, which is represented by kind of like an entranceway we've got on top of the thing. So these gents have been really gracious, and so we're going to do a 2,500 point game. 500 points from each force is going to go down into the Zone Mortalis or the water treatment plant, and 2k is going to happen on the 6x4. So I know this is a lot of talking, and we're getting to a point. The document was going to be represented by these two very small, really terrible pieces of...
I was quite impressed with that, to be honest with you.
I went for like an envelope, but I thought, well, we are in the 31st or the 30th millennium, so it's a bit terrible. So I made a scroll with some cable from a speaker wire.
That's just next level, though. That's the next
This
level.
game.
It is, it is. So
Always up in the game on this channel, aren't you?
well, we're trying. Budget cuts and all that. You got to make what you can. So it's just a bit of paper ruffled up and tied with red and green cord. So Danny, I'm going to give those to you.
Thank you.
Now, Danny will distribute them in his force. So he will decide whether you want to give it to 2 units on top of the board, maybe a unit in Zone Mortalis, a unit in up top. It doesn't matter who he gives it to, as long as it's infantry. And Danny's objective, or the Custodes' objective, is to get those documents off-world via the Orion, okay? And the Iron Warriors are just going to try and stop him.
Basically, shoot the hell out of them, which can do.
Absolutely. Now, Danny's going to keep these secret, though. He's probably going to tell me, just so I know, but certainly not going to tell Spencer, and it'll be up to Spencer to decide where he kind of commits his force, and equally you as well with the Custodes. So we've got 500 points down below and 2k up top. There is a bit of a complicated scoring system, so we're just going to go through it very quickly. If the Custode player gets one of these scrolls onto the Orion at the end of the game, you score 3 victory points per scroll. Great. If the Iron Warriors destroy the unit holding the scroll and it's left on the battlefield,
Fingers crossed.
hopefully you score a victory point as they're not captured. But if the scroll's on the floor and the Iron Warriors advance from their position and hold it at the end of the game, it's worth 2 victory points.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's quite a few points available. We're also doing Warlord, Last Man Standing, and kill points. So there's a lot of bookkeeping, and I will try my best, gents, to keep abreast of it.
Sure, we'll figure it out.
It's a secondary for the Orion as well, isn't there?
Absolutely, yes. There is a secondary Orion. The transport capacity is
24.
24. So Danny will score victory points. So if he gets a 5-man squad, but each will take 2, is that right?
Yes, they count as 2 for each.
Yeah, so for every unit that can embark on the Orion up to its capacity, Custodes will score a victory point per unit. So if you can fit 3 units on, it's 3 points. If you only fit 2 units on, it's 2 points. But it's only up to the transport capacity. The Orion cannot be destroyed.
No.
And it's your job to get off board. So hopefully I've explained that clearly. I've talked for far too much. So Danny, let's talk about your army.
Okay.
It's super elite.
Yeah, you could say that. It's an elite version of an elite army.
Tell us about it.
So it's led by Konstantin Valdor, and I like shiny, so I brought the Dreadnoughts along. I wanted to run a force that was sort of fitting with this ambush narrative that we've done. So no vehicles. The vehicles have all been destroyed. They've been taken by surprise. The only things they've got are the things that were in the building with them.
Yes.
So the Dreadnoughts were in there and the infantry were in there. Valdor has his 2 bodyguard units, and then there are 3 squads to escort them. And that's literally it. I mean, they're just running and gunning. There's literally one long-ranged weapon, which is the Dread Spear, which is the D3 las cannon shots.
Yep.
But aside from that, they are basically golden berserkers.
Yeah, it's going to look really cool. This tide of red and gold assaulting the dull kind of utilitarian kind of front line of the
They,
Iron
like I
Warriors.
say, complete polar opposites, really, aren't they? In
Yeah.
terms of not just style, but the design of the army, the look of the armies as well.
And Spencer, you've got a lot of firepower.
Yes, yeah. Well, as you said, the original plan was to have a gun line.
Hmm.
I essentially went over the top with that gun line as best I could do. I know what I'm up against. It's, Custodes are, as you say, they are the elite of the elite. Even with the guns I have got, it's going to be a tough game, I think. But yeah, I basically just went as many guns as I could get on there, essentially with what I had ready to go. But yeah, I've got a Warsmith. I call him Hephaestus. I've also got a mass signal because it kind of made sense with the gun line.
Yep.
Bringing in bombardments and whatnot. I've also got a couple of elite, top end units. So I've got the tyrants, the siege tyrants here. Got some Iron Havoc, so some Iron Warrior specific units there.
Yeah.
And then backed up with breaches, which turns out is actually really useful to have because of you changed the game with the Zone Mortalis board.
Yeah.
And then Iron Warriors and a gun line without some long range support with the Medusas.
What do you think your 500-point force will look like in Zone Mortalis? Do you think at the moment?
The way I'm thinking about it at the moment is 1 unit of the breaches going down with the Legion Terminators here, which would be the Warsmith. He's basically sending his best troops down there to go with it, and then with the other breacher squad, essentially probably going to play guard duty to the Orion on at the top.
Great. Danny, what about you? What do you think is going to go downstairs?
Well, I mean, I don't want to give it away where the document's going to go. But I think Valdor would entrust his bodyguard with part of it. And if they're going to go on an elite spy mission, I need someone that's elite. Because if I send a couple of squads here and I happen to come up against Terminators, their weapons aren't going to fare too well.
Okay.
So I think it will probably be someone more elite.
Great stuff. And just a couple of things about the Zone Mortalis board down the bottom there. We've got doors and consoles, so all the doors are open to everybody. My thinking was that the Custodes would be clever enough to make sure that they had full access wherever they went. So they've already hacked into a computer, and all the doors are open to the Custodes as well as the Iron Warriors. There are some consoles in there which can open and close doors. So it's up to these guys to decide whether it's advantageous to open or close a door prior to their movement turn. Also, the objective for the Custodes is to get from one end of the board to the other in the Zone Mortalis, and if they can get through the door at the end, they will pop up in the entranceway next to the Orion. So there is an advantage there. They can circumvent all the firepower, sneakily go underground, pop up the Orion, get on the Orion, and eventually get off. So that's the advantage there. However, Spencer, if he wanted to, he could commit part of his 500 points into Zone Mortalis, which he will do, but he can send half of it forward, and if he wants to retreat back up the escalator, or rather the elevator himself, he can then pop out on the landing pad himself. That will just be totally his decision. Or Danny might be really proficient, smash all the Iron Warriors.
More than likely.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
and then the Iron Warrior, and then Spencer can't reinforce his forces up top. So it will have a massive bearing on how it happens at the bottom. You never know. The Custodes might even not make it through the Iron Warriors line in Zone Mortalis.
That's what I'm hoping.
A lot of bodies to get through, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Tough enough bodies.
And then the Iron Warriors can reinforce the landing pad. So, it's anyone's game, really. And I think it'd be really cool, maybe, if the Custodes do make it through and they pop up behind the Iron Warriors.
It really adds a new dynamic to the game, actually. Rather than just like a straight and hammer anvil, it's got something different to it, which I'm really looking forward to trying.
It is. And the only other thing I was going to mention, when a unit emerges from that underground for going up the service elevator, they come out from that underground entranceway. I'll overlay a picture so you can see what I'm talking about. It'll be as if you're disembarking from a transport. So you can't assault from it. It'll just be, but you can obviously move out from it. So it's like a normal disembarkation.
That makes sense, that's good.
Really unique. It's the first time we've done a dual board. I would love to do more of these. So if it works really well, we might refine it later on. But it's definitely something I want to look at later. And I've done a build board video for both the 6x4 and the Zone Mortalis board. So please have a look at those at the end of the game. Gents, I just want to say thank you for entertaining this additional... I didn't tell them about this until they arrived this morning, so they've been really great sports to allow me to kind of explore this with them. So thank you for letting me do that.
No, absolutely.
Always excited about your crazy plans, Brains.
Oh, it's very kind. It's very kind. He's been very gracious to let me have a go. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope you are too. Let's look at the armies and then we'll get going.
2,500 points of Legio Custodes, led by Konstantin Valdor. In lieu of a right of war, Legio Custodes have 3 rules: preternatural skill, sodality, and inviolable psyche. Preternatural skill with the FAQ means that in any combat where the Custodes have a higher weapon skill than their opponent, they get +1 to their initiative. Sodality allows them to have a unit coherency of 3 inches instead of 2, and may always attempt to regroup at an unmodified leadership, regardless of casualties taken or any other effects. And inviolable psyche means the unit is immune to fear and pinning tests, and can reroll failed deny the witch attempts. The unit does not suffer penalties to its leadership when taking morale checks. Warlord trait for Konstantin Valdor is the Shadow of the Throne, which allows me to reroll seize the initiative rolls in missions where it counts, and to give a number of units transponders for free, but this is something that I'm not using, so it doesn't matter that it was changed by the FAQ. HQ for Legio Custodes is Konstantin Valdor. The Shield of the Emperor, first of the 10,000. And just a special point, there are some changes to him based on the FAQs for 30k, so he no longer has the digital lasers as an additional attack, and his Warlord trait is Shadow of the Throne, which allows me to reroll any attempts to seize the initiative in missions where this is a factor. And there's also something about teleportation transponders which has been changed, but it doesn't apply in this. First elite's choice for Legio Custodes is Heteron Guard Squad with 5 Guardian Spears and Array Shrikes. Second elite's choice for Legio Custodes is another Heteron Guard Squad with 4 Paragon Blades, 1 Solarite Gauntlet, and 5 Presidium Shields, and again Array Shrikes. Third elite's choice for Legio Custodes is a Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought. He is armed with a Dread Spear and 2 Lastrum bolt guns. Troops choices for the Legio Custodes, we have 3 identical squads of Sentinel Guard, armed with Sentinel Warblades and Presidium Shields, and they all have Melter Bombs. First heavy support choice for Legio Custodes is a Contemptor Galatus Dreadnought, and with a sword and a presidium shield and a built-in flamer. Final heavy support choice and entry for the Legio Custodes is a Telemon Heavy Dreadnought. He is armed with 2 Telemon Cestus with inbuilt Proteus plasma projectors and a Spiculus bolt launcher, so no more long-range firing today. He is here for brawling.
2,500 points of Iron Warriors, led by a Warsmith, not using a Rite of War. HQs for the Iron Warriors. The army is led by a Warsmith, which is an Iron Warrior specific HQ. I have called him Hephaestus. He's in Cataphractii Terminator armor. I've upgraded him with a servo arm, a Paragon blade, digital lasers, and he also has the abilities of Battlesmith and a Warlord trait, Shatter Defenses, which allows me to pick a piece of scenery in the enemy's deployment zone and reduce that cover save by 1. He's accompanied by a Master of Signal Consul, who has been upgraded with Artificer armor, a Refractor field, and he has the ability to improve the shooting of a unit or bring down a orbital bombardment. First elite's choice for the Iron Warriors is a Legion Terminator squad. They have 3 power weapons across the unit. They have 2 chain fists, and they are all armed with combi plasma weapons. They are all wearing Cataphractii Terminator armor. Second elite's choice for the Iron Warriors is a Legion Tech Marine Covenant. This has a Tech Marine that is upgraded to have, well, it has Artificer armor, a power weapon, a servo arm, and I've upgraded him to have rad grenades. He's accompanied by 4 servo automata that have rad missiles, and then there is a second Tech Marine that's been upgraded to have a Nuncio Vox. One of 2 troop choices for the Iron Warriors. This is a Legion Breacher Siege Squad. The Sergeant has been upgraded to have an Artificer armor and Power Fist. There are 2 Flamers in there and a Nuncio Vox. And both units are exactly the same. First heavy support choice for the Iron Warriors is the Iron Warriors Tyrant Siege Terminator Squad. This is one of 2 specialist units for the Iron Warriors. The Sergeant has been upgraded to have a Chain Fist, as is one of the standard Terminators. They all have Cyclone Missile Launchers and Combi Bolters, and they are all in Cataphractii Terminator armor. Second heavy support choice for the Iron Warriors is an Iron Havoc Squad, another specialist unit that's unique to the Iron Warriors. They have 9 last cannons on them, and the Sergeant has been upgraded to have Artificer armor, Power Fist, and a Nuncio Vox. Final heavy support choice, the final unit for the Iron Warriors, is a Legion Artillery Tank Squadron of 2 Medusas.
Danny, Spencer, we're deployed, ready to go, yes?
We are indeed.
I'm really looking forward to this. First time we've done a dual board, and we've got 2 really lovely forces on the table. Danny, you've got a bit of a gauntlet to run.
I have. There's a little bit of cover and a lot of guns.
Yes, we'll see. And Spencer, you worried about those Custodes reaching you?
I'm always worried about Custodes reaching me. They're going to get, if they get to the lines, I think it's going to collapse very quickly, but hopefully we can take some of that before they get there.
Good stuff. Right, gents, let's have a friendly handshake.
Good luck, man.
Good luck, buddy.
Look forward to this.
And Custodes you want to seize, yes?
I'm going to give it a go, and with Konstantin Valdor's Warlord trait, I get to re-roll, so let's see if we can do it.
All right, let's have a look.
Not quite. Let's give it a re-roll.
It's got
Target locked. Seize. Legio Custodes, turn 1, movement phase. Starting on the flank with the Telemon, we have just pushed forward through the building, using the Telemon as some cover for his smaller brothers behind him. Konstantin Valdor bringing up the rear, followed by the Heteron Guard, pushing around the centre, trying to keep out of sight of the last cannons if possible. Moving on to the buildings where the Custodes Sentinel Guard have pushed through, backed up by the 2 Dreadnoughts on the right flank. Moving underground, the Heteron Guard have entered the water treatment facility and are pushing up the centre. The Heteron Guard have run a further 3 inches forward, simply trying to advance and take as much ground as possible before the Iron Warriors move to engage them. Turn 1, Legio Custodes shooting phase, and there has been a whole lot of no shooting and a whole lot of running.
We have the Telemon and the 2 squads of Sentinel Guard with Konstantin Valdor, ran a 4 and a 3 and a 2 inches. We have the Heteron Guard pushed forward a further 3 inches, and very keen squad of Sentinel Guard in the middle pushed a further 6 inches through that building. They were followed by the Contemptor Galatus, which pushed round the side of the building a further 3 inches, and there is a single unit that will be shooting, which is the Contemptor Achilles. It's going to be shooting its Corvée Las Pulsar at one of the artillery tanks. The Contemptor Achilles is now targeting his Corvée Las Pulsar at the Medusa artillery tank squadron. He has D3 shots. For 1, he hits on a 2, and it's strength 9, front armour.
It's 12.
So he needs a 3 to glance, and that is a penetrate. But he will be getting a cover save from being obscured by the terrain piece, so he's got 4 up.
Let's see what we get.
And that's passed. Custodes shooting phase over.
Iron Warriors turn 1 movement. In response to the right-hand flank and that Telemon moving up the board, I've decided to pull the Titan Siege Terminators back a little bit. The Master Signal there has decided to forfeit his movement and give the bonus from his Cognis Signum to the Tyrants themselves. And that is all of the movement done, apart from the Breachers that have decided to start trying to fill in the gap. Moving underground for the Iron Warriors, on the movement phase, the Breacher Squad has decided to move through the door and start plugging the gap. We need to get as far forward as possible and try and slow down the Hecaton Guard. The Terminators, though, they were originally going to go down the left-hand flank, but in response to the Custodes moving to my right-hand flank, they've decided to start moving to the centre. Iron Warriors turn 1 shooting phase. Decided to start with the Medusas. Looking at this compact set of Custodes over on the right-hand side, decided to shoot at those. Managed to clip Valdor himself. Unfortunately, the second shot scattered off the board. And we rolled for it, and Valdor has saved the wound that he took. The Titan Siege Terminators now, they're going to try and shoot at the Heteron Guard directly in front of them. Because of the Master Signal giving them +1 to the ballistic skill, they are hitting on 2s, and we've got 12 shots. That's pretty good. We've got 1 miss out of all that. And now we're going to try and see if we can wound. They are strength 8, using crack missiles, against toughness 5. So 3s to wound, 2s to wound. All but 1. 2, sorry there. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 wounds on the Heteron Guard.
So 9 wounds. The AP of these is 3, and they have a 2-up save. So let's roll some dice. And they pass them all.
After the abysmal shooting from the Cyclone missile launchers failing to cause any wounds, the Tyrant Siege Terminators have decided to fire their combi bolters. As a result, they've scored 4 wounds, and the lead Heteron Guard has failed 2 saves. The Breach Squad in the centre has moved forwards. They've opened up with their bolt guns, and unfortunately have caused 0 wounds on the Sentinel Guard. Moving on to the Tech Marine Covenant next. I decided to use the bolt guns on the Tech Marines themselves first. They did quite well to hit, but unfortunately caused no wounds. And then moving on to the Servo Automata, they've got rad missiles. Now this is quite a key thing. I managed to cause 6 hits with these, and only caused 1 wound. Now, if the Sentinel Guard had failed this save, they would have reduced their toughness by 1, reducing them down to a toughness of 4. This would have been brilliant, because then the Iron Havocs that are next to them would have been insta-killing them by having a weapon strength double than the Sentinel Guard's toughness of 4. Moving on to the last unit for the Iron Warriors in the shooting phase, the Iron Havocs. They've got a big threat of the Sentinel Guard right in front of them. These are their priority target. I started with the Sergeant. He's taken aim with his bolt gun, and he has taken one of the Sentinel Guards down to 1 wound. Moving on to the last cannons now. Several of these are within the range of the ammo dump that's behind them, so they get to re-roll. They got to re-roll their 1s. The 2 of them are out of range, so roll them separately. Luckily enough, all of them managed to hit. So we've got 9 wounds onto the Sentinel Guards. Let's see what we cause, needing 2s. All but 2 have caused a wound. So that is 7 wounds on the Sentinel Guard for you to save.
So 7 4-up invulnerable saves because of the Presidium shields. And that is 5 fail, which with the 1 wound caused by the bolt gun, wipes the squad.
To finish off the shooting phase, underground, the breaches have decided to take a shot at the Hecaton Guard that are coming towards them. Only 4 of them can see. Managed to cause 1 wound, which they managed to save.
Turn 2, Legio Custodes, and we have begun with the Telemon, who was pushed out of cover, moving towards the lines, backed up by the Sentinel Guard, who have moved through the building, with Valdor bringing up the rear. The Heteron Guard with spears have moved forward, fanning out to make the most of their 3-inch coherency, in anticipation that there may be a few large blasts raining down on them momentarily. On the left flank, the Galatus and the Achilles Dreadnoughts have both pushed forward, looking to threaten perhaps a turn 3 charge next turn. Moving underground, the Heteron Guard continue to advance, moving forward towards the Iron Warriors, looking like they may be able to engage them soon. Turn 2, Legio Custodes shooting phase, and we have begun with the Sentinel Guard, who have run forward, pushing to cover more ground. The Heteron Guard have spread out further to make it easier to get a turn 3 charge for them. The Contemptor Galatus got a mighty 6 on his run move, advancing around the side of those crates, trying to menace the lines in front of him. And we are waiting now for the Achilles to begin shooting at the Medusas. So he has D3 shots with his Corvée Las Pulsar, and that gets him 2 shots. He hits on 2s. For 2 hits, he's strength 9, front armor is 12, so he needs 3s to glance. And that is 2 penetrate. So again, the cover will give a 4-up cover save.
See what we get. 1 goes through.
1 shot goes through. That is AP2, so it's +1 to this roll for a 6, which is an immobilized. Moving on to the Telemon, which unloaded its spiculous bolt launcher into the Master of Signals, scoring 4 hits and wonderfully doing 3 wounds. So 2 of those were Rens, so he's only going to get a 5-up refractor field save, and 1 of those was normal, so he will get his 2-up save.
I'm going to start with the Artificer armor, see if we can get that on a 2-up. That's okay. Moving on to the refractor field saves, they need a 5-up. 1 goes through, 1 passes.
Finishing off the shooting phase, the Heteron Guard underground in the facility have run a further 5 inches, almost guaranteeing that they will have a turn 3 charge. Legio Custodes turn 2 charge phase. The Telemon did move forward, but he didn't run because he has got a long bomb charge of 10 inches into that Master of Signals, but if he can make it, then he's putting some real pressure on those lines. So here we go, needs a 10. For the Emperor. Maybe not.
Iron Warriors turn 2 movement phase. One side of the table has decided to stand still. They are using their weaponry, that's their key thing. Over on the right hand flank though, we've had a bit of a move around. The Master Signal, seeing a threat from the coming towards him, has decided to join the Tyrant Siege Terminators. They've moved back, and the Breacher Siege Marines on the front, they've moved to the front lines to try and take the brunt of the oncoming attack. The units moving underground, we've decided with the Breachers moving forward. I'm seeing these as a sacrificial unit. They're going to take that charge soon. Let's try and get some decent shooting off first. And the Legion Terminators have moved around again to try and plug the gap. Iron Warriors turn 2 shooting phase, starting with the Breacher Squad that move forwards. Managed to get all of their weaponry into rapid fire range and managed to get 2 of the Flamers in range. Of all that, caused 12 hits, and from those managed to cause 4 wounds on the Heteron Guard.
So 2-up saves to make. And 1 goes through. Bolters for the win.
Moving on to the Iron Havoc squad. They've got the Galatus Dreadnought right in front of them. That's quite clearly the thing they need to get rid of. We've had 2 of the Iron Last Cannons out of range of the ammo dump. Rolled those, they both hit. The remaining 7, 1 of them failed, but because the ammo dump allows you to reroll 1s, managed to reroll that and get all hit. That's given me 9 armor penetration rolls against the Dreadnought. Let's see what we get. Needing 4s to glance. That's 1 glance and 3 penetrating rolls.
So I have 4 saves to take in total, and the Presidium Shield rules have been FAQ'd to change them from a rerollable save to +1 save, but this is called a Dreadnought Presidium Shield, so we weren't sure which way to do it. So the way we've interpreted it is it will just follow the old rules, so we'll get a 5-up rerollable refractor field save. So he's got one
glancing.
1 glance, so that is a 5-up with a reroll. No. And then 3 penetrating rolls with a reroll. And that's bad news. That's 1 dead Dreadnought. So you do have 3 rolls to see if it blows up, just in case you're in range.
Let's see what we get. So it's an AP 2 weapon, so it gets +1 to this. So it doesn't.
Crumples and dies.
Moving on to the Tyrant Siege Terminators. The Master Signal that joined the unit decided to forfeit his shooting to give them +1 to their ballistic skill. They fired at the Telamon Dreadnought, managed to get 5 misses still, and as a result of the arm penetration roll, have managed to get 1 penetrating roll and 1 glancing roll.
So we have 2 saves to take. We have a 4-up invulnerable save. We do have a rule called Unyielding Sentinel, which means if a penetrating hit does go through, then instead of rolling 1 dice, you roll 2d6 and pick the lowest for the result. So moving on to the saves now, we have a 4-up invulnerable save on the glance, which goes through, and 1 on the penetrate, which is passed. So that's 1 glance, 3 hull points left.
Moving on to the Medusas. The original plan was to shoot at the Heteron Guard because they're quite a big threat, but they've got arrow strikes, so that would really kind of change the way this works. As a result, decided to target the edge of the Sentinel Guards. The Scatter moved over onto the Heteron Guard, luckily, and then the Flip caught another one. Overall, I've got 3 wounds on the Heteron Guard. Let's see what we get. Needing 2s. That is 3 wounds.
So a little bit of squeaky run time because he's at instant death and he's hitting the nearest 2 which are unwounded. So I have 5-up refractor field saves. See what we can do. That'll be 2 dead.
Staying with the Medusas, they've both got a heavy bolter, which we're going to snap fire into the original target unit of Sentinel Guard. I've got a lucky 2 hits and 2 wounds. Unfortunately, Danny failed to save one of them.
2 of the Heteron Guard have fallen, which is enough to prompt a leadership test, which was passed. There would be a pinning test to take, but the inviolable psyche rule means that we automatically pass that, so we are good to go.
Moving on the ground again for the end of the Iron Warrior shooting phase. The breaches have unloaded everything into those Custodes in front of them. Between them and the Terminators also firing their bolt guns, managed to cause 2 wounds. To summarise, turn 2 shooting phase for the Iron Warriors. This has gone pretty well, actually. Those Iron Havocs in the centre are just pretty much deleting units in front of them. The Galatis Dreadnought was a big threat to my lines, so it's good. I'm really glad that went. As a bonus, though, taking out a couple of the Heteron Guard, that's always a good sign. And quite frankly, I'm going to start shooting bolt guns at every Custodes I ever see in the future now.
Legio Custodes turn 3 movement phase, and we've begun with the Contemptor Achilles on the left flank, who's moved forward now, trying to set himself up for a long bomb charge. Moving on to the Heteron Guard with the Spears, who've recouped from the losses they've taken in the previous turn, moving forwards, ready to set themselves up for potentially 2 or 3 charge options. The Telamon has pushed forward, ready to unleash his plasma projectors on the breaches stood in front of him, backed up by the Sentinel Guard, being commanded by Konstantin Valdor, ready to push into the Iron Warriors' lines. Moving underground, the Heteron Guard have pushed aggressively forward now. They've weathered the fire and they're ready to make this charge. The wounded members of the squad have fallen to the back to allow the fresh members to take the shots as they charge in to the Iron Warriors. Legio Custodes turn 2 shooting phase, and we begin with Valdor, who fired his bolter at the Siege Tyrant Terminators, causing a wound, but unfortunately it was saved. Moving on, the Sentinel Guard squad in front have shot the Breach squad, fell in one of their number. The Telamon raised his plasma projectors, plasma Proteus projectors, and sent forth a gush of burning hot plasma. Between that and the Spiculous bolt launcher, 7 of the Breacher Marines have fallen, including the Sergeant with the Artificer armour. Moving on to the Contemptor Achilles, he levelled his Dread Spear, sighted down the targets, and destroyed one of the Medusas, managing to put 3 hull points through, and had already taken 1. So it destroyed the first one, and has now scored a Crew Shaken hit on the second one, which means it will not be able to fire its large blast template weapon next turn, so great result. Moving underground to the final charge now, the Heteron Guard have soaked up the Overwatch and made it into combat with the Breachers. Legio Custodes turn 3 assault phase, and we have begun with the Heteron Guard making a heroic 7-inch multi-charge into the Siege Tyrant Terminators and the Breacher squad. The Telamon went to follow them in but tripped over a stone and failed his charge. And moving on to the right-hand flank, the Achilles failed his charge, rolling only 4 inches, failing to make it into the Servitor unit, or the Automata, sorry. Moving into the fight phase, the 2 Heteron Guard in base with the Breacher squad, because they have better weapon skill, get +1 initiative. So at initiative 6 they swung. 3 of them did roll some 6s for more attacks, but unfortunately only caused 2 wounds, one of which was saved, so we felled one of the Breachers. Finishing this combat here, a challenge was issued by the Heteron Guard and accepted by the Warsmith, and with an epic coup de grace, he turned, swung, and took the head off the Warsmith, felling him. However, the initiative is the same, so before he falls, he does get to strike back with his Paragon Blade.
So the return strike from the Warsmith. He's gone in there with his Paragon Blade, all singing, all dancing, managed to cause 2 wounds, one of which was a 6, which would have been a decapitating strike. Unfortunately, though, the Heteron Guard managed to pass both of his invulnerable saves. Moving on to initiative step 4, the Breach Marine was the only one that could attack at this point. He attempted to gloriously take down one of the Emperor's Custodes, unfortunately failed to do so. After that, the Terminators were unable to pile into the Custodes, so as a result they have consolidated away backwards out of combat.
Following running down the last Breacher Marine, the Heteron Guard have reshuffled a little bit, put their strongest warrior at the front and consolidated forward. After the successful charge was made, the Heteron Guard did issue a challenge which was accepted by the Sergeant. Moving into this challenge, the Heteron Guard swung with 3 attacks, hit once, wounded once, but unfortunately the save was passed, so the powerful Sergeant is still alive. Following the challenge, the rest of the squad swung at the breachers. 9 attacks went in, causing 5 hits, 5 wounds, felling 3 of the breacher marines.
The remaining breachers, initiative step 4, have piled in further. We got 6 attacks out of that lot, managing to cause 3 wounds, but they've all been saved.
Striking at initiative 1, the Heteron Guard with the Soulright Gauntlet steps up to the plate. He swings with 3 attacks, hitting twice with a reroll because of Mastercrafted, does 2 wounds, and the 5 of invulnerable saves were both failed, felling another 2 legionaries.
To finish the fight phase of the combat, the Breacher Sergeant is at initiative step 1, goes in swinging with 2 attacks with his Power Fist, and unfortunately failed to hit the opponent.
The Emperor.
End of the combat, the Breachers have lost that combat by 6. Rolling their morale, I roll a double 6. That's sometimes good for some things, not for that. They have definitely lost that combat and been wiped out by those Custodes.
Great turn for the Legio Custodes there, managing to kill 2 full Breacher squads and push the line back, as well as taking out the Warlord, means that now the Iron Warriors have some really difficult decisions to make, just where we want them.
Iron Warriors turn 3 movement phase. The Havocs have decided they're just going to stay still. They need to be shooting whatever they can shoot. The missile launchers from the Tech Marine Server Automata, the Tech Marine Covenant unit over on the left flank, they're moving forwards. Their missiles aren't that great in this situation, and they're going to try and use themselves as blocking tactics. The Tyrants, they're consolidating backwards. They know the objective of this mission. They need to stop the Custodes getting into the back of the Orion. So they're going to move backwards, ready for some shooting. Final movement is from the Medusa. As it can't shoot this turn with its main cannon, it decides it's going to move back as far as it can do. Final part of the movement phase for the Iron Warriors is they're going to take a tactical retreat. They've gone into the lift. They intend to go to the landing pad because they're hearing that the lines have been breached up there, and they've just left the Heteron Guard on their lonesome. Iron Warriors turn 2 shooting phase. First port of call is a tactical move. We're running forward the Tech Marine Covenant with the Server Automata. They're now going to be chaff, really. They're just blocking the lines for the Dreadnoughts. Even though the Medusa can't fire its main cannon, it can snap fire its heavy bolter. Firing 3 shots into the Heteron Guard in front of them, manages to cause a wound, but it was saved. Moving on to the Iron Havocs. They've got some Custodians right next to them. So we started with the Sergeant, rapid firing his bolt gun into them, didn't do anything. We've got the last cannons. As before, we've got the couple that are outside of the ammo dump range that caused 9 wounds in total. As a result, though, we've managed to take down one of the Heteron Guard and put another wound on another one. Final bit of shooting from the Iron Warriors before we go underground is from the Tyrant Siege Terminators. They saw the Heteron Guard in front. They see those as the biggest threat because they are closest for charging. They threw everything into them, managing to cause a single wound with the Cyclone missile launchers. But as you can see, it was the combi bolters that wiped out the unit.
Legio Custodes turn 4 movement phase, and as expected, the Telemon has thrown himself forward over the trench, getting 6 inches with his move through cover. He's been followed by the left-hand squad of Sentinel Guard who are pushing up behind him, and Konstantin Valdor has switched from the left squad to the right squad as they push forward towards the las cannon teams. and the Achilles dreadnought has moved round, making no forward progress whatsoever because he has been movement blocked, so he's probably going to have to throw himself into the automata. Moving underground, and seeing as the Iron Warriors Terminators have fled cowardly, they have been followed by the Heteron Guard, hot on their heel, pushing hard towards that elevator. Legio Custodes turn 4 shooting phase, and beginning with a contempt at Achilles, he couldn't really set himself up to hit his preferred target of the Iron Havocs as they're too far away to make a charge, so unfortunately he's had to throw his Lastrum Stormbolters and his Dread Spear Corvée Laspulsar into the automata, slaying 2 of their number. But they do not need to take leadership because Iron Warriors are fearless from shooting. The Telemon has taken aim at the Legion Tyrant Terminators, Siege Tyrant Terminators, unloaded everything he's got, and when the smoke has cleared, he's done absolutely no damage whatsoever. So not a great result there, but we'll see if we can make it up in the charge. Last part of the shooting phase for Legio Custodes saw the Sentinel Guard squad try to cover up some ground for the next turn. With Crusader they only got 2 inches, so they've just moved on to the lip of the cover. Moving underground to the end of the shooting phase in turn 4, the Heteron Guard managed to roll a 6 for their run, which gets them within range of that elevator, meaning that they get to embark upon it this turn, and they will be able to disembark on the surface in turn 5 to see what awaits them. Legio Custodes turn 4, at the end of the charge phase, you may notice that not much has changed. Unfortunately, the Telemon only rolled 4 inches and failed his charge, fortunately taking no overwatch, but the Sentinel Guard squad needed 8 inches to get into the Legion Iron Havoc squad. They rolled 8 inches. The Iron Havoc squad rolled 5 6s with the las cannons, doing 5 wounds, and I passed 3 out of the saves, passing 1 wound on with the Lookout Sir to the second in command, but unfortunately the lead guy, the one that we needed to get in, died. The charge therefore failed by about 1 millimeter. Thirdly, the Achilles made a charge that at this point doesn't really matter that much into these automata. At the end of the combat phase, the brave Achilles Contemptor Dread stood up against the evil Servitor Automata, slaying them where they stand and consolidating to make sure that I cannot fail that charge next turn if I am still alive.
Iron Warriors turn 4 movement phase. First things first, the Legion Terminators that did a tactical retreat from the underground complex has now arrived on the landing pad. Their role now is to literally be a speed bump for the Custodes that are following them. The Master Signal decided to disconnect from the Tyrants and join this Legion squad because, quite frankly, he doesn't want to be involved in a massive fight with that Telemon Dreadnought. The Tyrants are moving forwards. They're going to try and get some shots off if they can do, but ideally they intend to charge. The Iron Havocs, though, they've been the stars of the show so far. They're going to take it. They can see a Dreadnought charge at them. They're not phased by that. They're going to try and shoot him off the battlefield. Finally, the Medusa doesn't need to move this turn. Line up a shot. You can see some Custodes in the open. Let's try and bring them down, shall we? Turn 4 shooting phase for the Iron Warriors. I've started with the Iron Havocs. These have been the stars of the show so far, and they're still living up to it. The Achilles Dreadnought right in front of them was going to be charging them and killing them. They've decided to throw everything at that. Managed to get 8 hits altogether. That's the least they've got of the entire game. And from that, they got 5 penetrating hits, and not even an Achilles Dreadnought can survive that.
Didn't even have the good grace to explode in their face, though.
Continuing on to the back of the battlefield, the Medusa had a great shot lined up at the Sentinel Guards over there. However, the scatter meant that it moved towards my lines, but luckily enough, only landed on the Telemon. Its ordnance weapon rolled the dice, managed to score a penetrating hit on its rear armour, but luckily enough, it's got that invulnerable save that it's meant to stop it from being damaged at all. Continuing on, the Legion Terminator squad that have just arrived, they don't have much to do, but those that can see have decided to throw their bolt guns at the Sentinel squad on the right-hand flank. Managed to get some hits, and luckily enough, scored a wound.
Turns out that Auramite is forged to withstand las cannons and Medusa blasts, but not boltify so well.
Last unit to shoot is the Siege Tyrant Terminators. Threw all the crack missiles into that Telemon, managed to take 2 more hull points off it, and managed to cause a crew stunned, but because it has extra armour, that's now become a crew shaken. Not exactly what I wanted, but let's see if we can take it out in combat. Iron Warriors turn 4 assault phase. Not much to do, but the Siege Tyrant Terminator decided to charge the Telemon. Unfortunately, I lost 2 on as we go in due to his plasma weaponry, and the rest managed to make it. Let's see what we can do.
Combat between the Telemon and the Siege Tyrants, Having a higher initiative of 5, the Telemon swung first, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s and wounded on 2s with a reroll, felled another Terminator, so that's 3 in total have gone down.
As you can see, the Telemon is gone. Didn't go quite as well as I think Danny wanted to. The Power Fist managed to wreck it completely, but as well as the Chain Fist to go, we thought we'd throw those in there too to see if it exploded and damage my Tyrants. Luckily enough, didn't manage to explode it.
What an explosion!
Nope.
What happened?
To follow up though, I rolled a 4 for the consolidation move. I decided to move forward and try and see if we can slow down the remaining Custodes from the Orion.
Legio Custodes, turn 5 movement phase, and we begin with the Heteron Guard who explode out of the elevator. They see the Orion in sight and Konstantin Valdor moving towards them in the distance. Their hearts fill with hope. They raise their shields, their blades are bared, and they know that they have to take the fire from the Legion Terminators, and that is the only thing standing between them and their prize. The 2 squads of Sentinel Guard have moved forward to surround the Siege Tyrant Terminators to drag them down after they've destroyed the Telemon, and Konstantin Valdor has decided to personally see off the Iron Havoc Lascannon squad. They've reaped a toll against his forces, and he's about to put an end to them. Legio Custodes, turn 5 shooting phase. So the Heteron Guard, as you may notice, have no guns. Paragon blades that have built-in bolters. They didn't have time. They have come out and they're bracing to take the fire from the Legion Terminators. Konstantin Valdor, even though he's got a nice fancy hyperbolter, cannot shoot it because I have a 5-inch charge. If I kill 1 or 2 of those guys, that's a 6 or a 7-inch charge, and with my charge record, I don't want to risk it. The Sentinel Guard, however, will be hard-pressed to fail their charge, so they're going to unload their 10 shots into the Siege Tyrant Terminators. The Sentinel Warblades unloaded into the Legion Tyrant Terminators, and they had 10 shots, causing 6 hits and 2 wounds. Unfortunately, the Terminator plate held, and the Terminators are still safe, so it looks like it's going to fall to the charge. Legio Custodes, turn 5 assault phase. I was a little bit worried about sending Konstantin Valdor in because the last time someone tried to charge them, they took 5 Lascannon hits to the face. Fortunately enough though, I survived, and I had a 5-inch charge to make, and target acquired will get us 12 inches, so Valdor is in, like Flynn. And moving on to the Sentinel Guard squad with no overwatch, they had a very easy charge to make, and they have now wrapped into those Terminators ready to swing. Starting with the 2 combined squads of Sentinel Guard attacking the Legion Tyrant Terminators. 15 attacks hitting on 3s got me 4 hits, which was a little less than I was hoping for. It did get me 4 wounds though, 2 of those were requiring invulnerable saves, and 1 of those failed, so it did mean I pulled 1 Terminator down, so not so bad overall.
Unfortunately, losing 1 meant that I was reduced down to 4 attacks for the Tyrant Terminators. Going in there, needing 5s to hit, which isn't too great, still managed to get 3 hits. Also caused 3 wounds, but this chap over here, he seems to be really good at passing those invulnerable saves when he really needs to. No deaths on the Custodes side.
Yeah, boy.
Meant that I lose combat by 1, but managed to pass the leadership test and hold them in combat.
Konstantin Valdor moves in and swings. He gets 5 hits, but he does roll a 6, which gives him an extra attack, which converts to 6 hits in total. Causes 5 wounds, the majority of them cause an instant death, and they're all AP2. That does result in 5 dead Marines, including the Sergeant. That Sergeant dying puts them out of their 3 inches to be able to pile in and fight back, and they are now leadership 3, but he does pass on a 3. So the Iron Havocs live, and both units will now consolidate their own ways. Konstantin Valdor has broken from combat and consolidated 6 inches towards the Orion. He sees the end and escape in sight. The Iron Havocs remaining have jumped over the wall and get a bead on him as he flees towards his dropship.
Iron Warriors turn 5 movement phase. It is really been a close game. This could be the be-all end-all of the game. The only movement I've decided to do this turn is to break away the Master of Signal. He's the last remaining commander of the table. He's decided he's going to try and face down the great warrior Konstantin Valdor. If he survives this, then he is the hero of the Imperium. Everyone else has decided to stand still. The Iron Havocs moved to the other side of the Aegis defense line. They're going to try and take down Valdor first. And then the Medusa, he's also going to take a shot at Konstantin Valdor as well. Finishing off with the Legion Terminators. They've been doing their job. They're holding the line. Let's see if we can take out some of these last remaining Custodes warriors. Iron Warriors turn 5, shooting phase. I started with Iron Havocs. They managed to survive the attack from Konstantin Valdor, but they can see him running towards the objective. They need to bring him down. There's 5 of them now, but because of the tactical move to try and get behind cover, taking them away from their ammunition dump, meant I didn't get the reroll. However, they all hit because they're expert marksmen. Out of all those hit though, I managed to cause 5 wounds, but he managed to save 3 of them. That put 2 wounds on Konstantin Valdor. Moving on to the last remaining Medusa. Could be the last shot of the game for him. He's got Konstantin Valdor right in front of him. This is close range. This should be easy. Unfortunately, the shot scattered so far, it landed in open space between the Medusa and Konstantin Valdor. No attacks at all. Finishing off with the Legion Terminator squad. This entire game they've been holding back with their combi plasma guns. This is the turn to use them. They fired all their shots from plasma, managing to hit with all of them due to the +1 ballistic skill they get from the Master of Signal that is standing in front of Konstantin Valdor. All hit, all wound. That is 10 plasma shots into the Heteron Guard. Managing to kill one of them outright completely and putting 2 wounds onto another. Not quite as many dead as I would like, but there's plenty of wounds in there ready for combat. Iron Warriors turn 5 assault phase. Quite frankly, I didn't think I'd make it this far, but here we are. Now, you'll see that the Legion Terminator squad, they're not charging. This is a tactical move. I know there's a chance we could have an extra turn, so they are staying there. They're going to just basically be that iron line for the Custodes to get through. However, we have got the combat with the Sentinel Guard. The only combat of turn 5, the Siege Tyrant Terminators versus the Sentinel Guard. They have the high initiative, they went in there, and they pretty much annihilated everything. It was close, only 1 save was in it, but that was all they needed.
Gotta love statistics. Legio Custodes turn 6, and we have a turn 6 because the Iron Warriors have a rule called the bitter end, which means if the game length is optional, the opponent can force it to go to turn 6. So, because it is coming down to the wire and I need to make sure I can reach this transport, we have elected to do a 6th turn. The Heteron Guard have spread out, ready to charge the Legion Terminators. Konstantin Valdor has pushed himself forward, hoping that he can make a charge to aid his brethren with his might. The Sentinel Guard have moved towards the Master of Signals, and the squad of 2 have fallen back to take care of the squad of Iron Havocs that are threatening Konstantin Valdor. Legio Custodes turn 6 shooting phase, and the 2 Sentinel Guards moving towards the Iron Havoc squad laid down fire, causing 2 wounds, but unfortunately they were both saved, although bittersweet, it does mean that my charge is now shorter. The squad of 3 Sentinel Guard put 3 wounds on the Master of Signals, but his artificer plate held firm. Konstantin Valdor levelled his bolter at the Legion Terminators and felled one of them, making his charge a little bit longer, but making it easier for the Heteron Guard to finish them off. Moving now into the assault phase. Legio Custodes turn 6 assault phase, and the Sentinel Guard levelled their swords and made to charge in on the Iron Havoc squad. But unfortunately, this is the second time this has happened. The one model that needed to be in range to make the charge was felled as 3 las cannon hits came in, wounded, and I unfortunately failed 2 saves. So the charge has been failed. Moving on to the Sentinel Guard squad, they needed a single-inch charge and they rolled a double 6, so they got a 12, which was great. Unfortunately, Konstantin Valdor, who needed a 4, rolled a 3. And the Heteron Guard have had to go in on their own, hoping to finish off these Legion Terminators and make good their escape. With 9 attacks, the Sentinel Guard swung. They were hitting on 4s, which did make a little bit of a difference. We only got 4 hits. We did do 3 wounds, though, but there were no rending attacks in there, so just 3 2-up saves, and unfortunately the Master of Signals passed it. He didn't do any damage in return though, so we stand there in a stalemate. The end of the assault phase, and the Heteron Guard swung, and they felled 3 Terminators with the Paragon Blades. Unfortunately, the Power Fist failed to kill the last Legion Terminator, who then failed to hit back in return, and they were swept at the end with the morale, and that has allowed the Heteron Guard to consolidate onto the transport, just waiting for Valdor to make good their escape.
Iron Warriors turn 6. That bitter end rule can really mess me up sometimes, but it's given me a last-ditch attempt. Not happy about all those Legion Terminators dying in the last turn, but let's see what we can do. We've got my Havoc squad left, Iron Havoc squad left, I've got a Medusa left, and I've also got the lone Master Signal. Not much movement. as you can imagine, because I want to be shooting stuff. The only movement I've really done is pivot the last remaining Medusa. We're going to try and get a cheeky shot off. We're using the barrage onto the Heteron Guard that have tried to get into the transport. Could be it. If I get a good hit, I could wipe them all out. Moving on to the shooting though, we've got the Iron Havocs went first, and they've decided to shoot at the last remaining Sentinel Guard. For all I know, they could have one of the objectives, but it's definitely a kill point if I kill it. As you can see, there's no longer a Sentinel Guard there. That's another dead unit. So this is the last round of shooting for the Iron Warriors. The Iron Havocs took out that last Sentinel Guard. Unluckily though, they didn't have one of the scrolls that I was hoping for. Moving on to the Medusa. He's not been too great this game, but he targets now with the Heteron Guard that we're getting to the back of the Orion. I needed a good hit with this one, especially with the arrow strikes, meaning that I've got 3d6 for the scatter. Luckily enough, as you can see, I got a bang-on target lock. Due to its strength 10 meant that it was double its toughness, so any failed vulnerable saves here meant they were instantly dead. 3 down, 1 still surviving. However, he has taken some shooting. The squad has been really, really roughed up there. They're going to have to take a leadership test to see if they stay where they are. I need this to be a high number. That target lock now would be brilliant.
Leadership 10. What can go wrong, eh? They're okay.
Iron Warriors, turn 6, close combat phase. I think this is going to be the most important phase of the game. The Master of Signal, only one in combat, he's the only one that's stopping the Custodes from taking off in the Orion. He needs to survive that 1 round of combat from the Sentinel Guard. Unfortunately though, even though he passed 3 Artificer armor saves, the 1 remaining wound that he had on him was taken down due to a failed refractor field save. And that was the end of that.
It's done. I was a little concerned. It was a bit convoluted, but I think it produced one hell of a game, gents.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. That was interesting as hell.
Oh my word!
Close.
That was a
roller coaster up and down, wasn't it?
It was an absolute roller coaster of a game. It was pretty wild, you know. Let's do this in logical order because I'm not really sure where to start. Let's start with victory points. I think it's quite obvious who won, but you know, it all came down to a dice roll in the end.
We've worked out it's 2 dice rolls.
Yeah.
2 dice rolls, and it was 2 invulnerable saves that made the difference.
So maybe do the points, then we can say what it would have been.
So the Iron Warriors did a fantastic job. Unfortunately, you didn't stop any of the scrolls from falling to the ground or embarking on the transport, but you did get 6 kill points in the end, which I think is quite reasonable for the amount of high toughness, super elite models that are on the table.
And the things that he killed. You know, Telemon, the Dreadnoughts, Heteron Guard. He wasn't picking off the easy things. Your
shooting was absolutely spectacular. We'll get onto that shortly. The Talons, though, so to break this down, you got 2 units onto the Orion, which were a point each. So on 2. You killed the Warlord for 3. You had Last Man Standing for 4. You got 1 of the documents onto the Orion, which was worth 3 victory points, and that was from the Heteron Guard squad.
Yes, the last remaining guy.
Excellent. You got 7 kill points.
I think you gave up 1 for the siege.
For the Warsmith.
The Warsmith has got a special rule where if you do take down the Warsmith, then it gives an extra victory point, unfortunately.
Yes, so totaling scores up, we've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So final score, 15-6. Now let's talk about those dice rolls as we mentioned.
Well, yeah, the last turn really was where it swung, wasn't it? It could have been, I think it was anyone's game up until that point.
I think we worked out that had 2 saves gone differently, if I had failed my last invulnerable save on the Heteron Guard, and if he had made his 5 refractor field save on the Master of Signals, it would have changed it from 15-6 to 10-9.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have got the 3 for getting on the plane, I wouldn't have got 2 people on the plane, so I'm down to 10, and he would have got 2 points for me dropping 1.
It would have been 10 all, because you wouldn't have got the Master of Signal kill point. It would have been a draw.
So it would have been a draw. So there's 2 saves because I wouldn't have got the guys on the plane. You would have got 1 extra kill point, 2 on the ground, and then the Master Signal surviving.
Yeah, and don't forget that Master Signal was really key because he was essentially contesting the Orion, and we always said that you need to be within an inch of the Orion to embark. Although you did a valiant effort to get into the back to the key point.
I think that worked really well, especially with the two games going on side by side. That really worked thematically. That did.
But also as well, Valdor was he was an inch away from the inch bomb around the
He was just there, wasn't he?
So if that had happened, you know, you would have got 1 for Valdor, +3 for scroll because he had a scroll.
He did have a scroll.
So it would have been +1. So
Only got that charge off at the end.
Yeah. If I'd have chosen a better target, then he could have consolidated them. I've got to say that squad thwarted me throughout the entire game. It took 2 charges from 2 squads that would have made it, but the one guy died. Valdor went in, didn't kill enough. They didn't run.
They've absolutely been
they
stars.
were phenomenal.
I mean, yeah, this is actually the first time I've used Iron Havocs before. A lot of people rate them. I got them because I want to start using new units, and quite frankly, wow.
Yeah,
they were deleting dreadnoughts left, right, and centre. They've took charges. They've taken down people on the charge. Quite frankly, my dice rolls on the Overwatch has been ridiculous. So I apologise for that today.
5 out of 9 hits.
Wow, that was absolutely mental. But
that's not a good day.
But however, it wasn't them at the end of the game that really kind of swung it. They did a fantastic job throughout the game holding that central line. But it was those other key moments that on the last turn that really kind of swung the game around.
Yeah. And Danny, you brought down the Sentinel squad back.
Yeah, it had to be these guys simply because just with the rending, just getting that one rending that wound that they did to the Master of Signals, him failing that meant that 2 squads could get on, and that the 3 points for the scrolls. So that got me 5 points just for those guys. So I think they had to do that with killing the Terminators as well. For the fact they only had generally AP3 attacks, they just managed to pull what I needed out of it at the end of the game.
Yeah. I think the game in general worked really well. I really loved the dual boards, and I quite like the fact that Spencer abandoned the water facility and went, well, I'm going to bring the Terminators up for support at the top.
Yeah.
And then the Heteron Guard made it through. They came out. They got a really good pounding from the plasma.
I think it really, really added towards the end of the game, didn't it?
Yeah.
If it happened down in the water compound, I think it would have been, that's just done.
Yeah.
And then it just walked out.
An open direction.
I think it added a really nice element to the end of the game where there's that last stand line of Terminators just going, no, we're not going to let you get onto this. But then kind of went, actually, you're going to let you go on.
But also as well, the great thing here is that, VC guys allowed me to kind of push the mission a little bit. And if you were playing super competitively, Spencer should have just stood outside the front of that door. And then obviously the Heteron Guard couldn't have got out. But we're trying to create a little bit of narrative here and a little bit of storytelling. And you moved away, so the Heteron Guard came through.
Sure.
It's what makes the game more fun, in my opinion. I mean, I could have just put the Terminators in front of that access point. We did say it worked like a axis and out of a vehicle.
Yes.
You wouldn't have gone out. What fun? Where's the fun in that? Yep. We wouldn't have had that ending turn that we did get if it wasn't for that. Yeah. And it would have been kind of a bit of a moot point after that point.
Yeah, and I also think as well, because we played Harrow and Anvil, there was quite a lot of high-powered units on the board. I genuinely believed that if we hadn't have done the dual board, the Custodes, they just would have steamrolled all the way at that and just absolutely annihilated the armoured, and it wouldn't have produced the game that it produced. I'm not saying Custodes are overpowered, that's not what I'm saying, but because we played that
it would have been a numbers game, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And I think I was saying this on lunch that if we'd gone for all units on top, I think I would have run out of room to put stuff on the line.
Especially with me managing to seize, it meant that you'd have had less turns before I hit you. And I think it would have just been a, can I suck it up and reach you? And then it would have gone south quite quickly.
But even then, we thought that's how it was going to go. You got the seize. I thought I'm going to get a turn of shooting in and then you're going to be in combat. And it just didn't happen that way. No. Really didn't.
Imagine maybe if Danny hadn't seized, you would have got even longer to shoot at him. And if your Medusas had been on target a little bit on early in the game, there would have been way less coming towards.
Might not have even made it.
Yeah.
Because he did have quite a lot of juicy targets.
Yeah, absolutely. And quite frankly, those Medusas could have done more work than I think they did.
Yeah.
I think got some lucky scatters, but generally they weren't the unit I expected them to be in the game. Yeah, but I think that's what the scattering is. That's how it works. It's just the way it was sometimes. So apart from that last turn of shooting.
I think it worked really well. I was, again, thank you to these gents for allowing me to kind of explore some options here. I think they put up a fantastic game. And yes, Custodes won, but my hell, did they have to work for it?
I gave them a fight. I'm quite glad I did. And it wasn't just, I'm going to sit here and shoot you. Yes, there was a lot of that going on, but it came down to combats, which I was sitting there going, well, this is just a foregone conclusion. But as it turned out, managed to hold it. Just.
There was some good tactics being employed on both sides, and I think it worked super well. So congratulations, guys. It was really great work.
I really appreciate that, and really enjoyed it.
Good.
Really enjoyed it.
Now, as I mentioned, I mentioned at the beginning, but I filmed the board builds before the game, but it'll go out after this interview. So I'll rephrase myself slightly. There is a board build for both boards that will go out after this interview. So please go and have a watch there. You will also see on the last board build for the Zone Mortalis board that I've just done, I've appealed for the public to, if you want to get involved with the channel and you like writing scenarios and you want to try and, you've got an idea in your head and you want to kind of explore it in the channel, email me, david@the30kchannel.com, and we can have a chat, and I can supply the resources I need from you, like a pack, a type mission, tell me the forces you want, I'll source those for you, and we'll try and get some more of these dual narrative kind of boards. Oh god, I struggle doing this. This is a bit of a thing I thought of in the shower, as I mentioned earlier, but if you want to do more with the channel and you can write a good scenario and stuff, then please get in touch and we can do that. I really appreciate the input. I just don't have a lot of time these days to do this. So this one was thrown together a little bit, but luckily it worked.
It worked very well. It worked very well.
Thank God. I have taken loads of photos of this game, so please go to the Facebook page when the game is released. There'll be loads of photos there for you to look at and enjoy. Danny, you're not on Instagram, which is fine. Spencer, you are, but there's not a lot on there.
Only just decided to, I'm an old man. This new technology and this kind of social media stuff, it's all new to me. So I do have an Instagram, but I've literally uploaded not a single photo yet. So once that's actually up and running a bit better, then maybe for next time we'll put that up there.
Good stuff, right, not to worry. Before we go though, we should just mention Phosphex Party quickly.
Yes, that's the HORUS HERESY podcast that myself, Dan, as you all know, and my friends Ant and Ross run. We are over a year old now, so that's we're quite surprised we're still going because as you can probably tell on the podcast, we bounce off each other quite well. But yeah, it's been going really well. We've got a lot of people who seem to enjoy it, but yeah, go and have a listen. Yeah,
please give these guys a listen. As Spence mentioned, Dan Porter, he does our Adeptus Titanicus games, does a fantastic job. So there's a really nice crossover there between the two. And you guys are only in Leicester as well. So
my local game club is the Leicester Fat Cats. We've been going well. We've got quite a few people now that are into the heresy scene as well. So and more people wanting to get into Adeptus Titanicus as well.
Yeah.
So it's all going really well at the moment. So by all means, if you're local to Leicester or even close enough to get a game in, give us a shout.
Fantastic, and we will no doubt see Spencer back with his Iron Warriors. Danny, any clubs you'd like to mention?
The club nearest to me is Leeds Battle Bunker, who do actually do a heresy night on a Tuesday. So if you're around, then come down to that, and we could do some Adeptus Titanicus. Some big robots would be cool.
Yeah. 80. I think it's quite slow to start at the moment. With the release of the models and the weapon sprues, it's been a real slow grow in the community. And but hopefully these new weapon sprues are out.
I think that's what has kind of held things back. People went, great, it's a new game, and then they kind of went, we'll release weapon sprues later, and everyone's on, I might as well wait for them to come out. And then now you're starting to get some nice variation in Legios out there, and especially with the new Titan Death book. But that's for another chat, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And don't forget, we are covering AT, and those games will increase, and there's going to be lots of new scenery and lots of new bits and bobs coming in the next few months. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you so much to Danny and Spencer for coming down. It's been a long slog. Danny's come from Leeds. I think we're 7 o'clock in the evening now. We're close to.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, we're close.
Worth the drive.
Thank you. A lot of effort. Thank you so much, gents. We will see Danny again, no doubt, as we will Spencer.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great game.
Appreciate
Good
it.
game, gents. We will see you in the next one. Hello, everyone. I really hope you've enjoyed that game between the Custodes and the Iron Warriors. Now, as always, I am building this board prior to the game in the morning before Spencer and Danny arrived. I've been here quite early. I've been here since about 6:30. Had to pack away the Adeptus Titanicus board from filming from last week with Dan Porter, and it's had to have a massive tidy up. So this, as you've just watched the game, it was the Custodes running at essentially a gun line for the Iron Warriors to get to the Orion transport. The Custodes had that document in their hand. I saw that as a written document rather than sort of electronic documents. They've kind of got this kind of, I don't know, satchel or leaf of documents which one of the models had, and hopefully, because I obviously don't know the result, They've got from one end, got to the Orion and got off the table. Failing that, you know, the Iron Warriors have managed to stop the Custodes, and it is now in the Iron Warriors' hands. So I obviously don't know the result. Now, it's one thing bearing in mind as well. Originally, this was literally just going to be the Custodes running at a gun line of the Iron Warriors. But I woke up quite early this morning, and I've been thinking about this game for weeks and weeks and weeks, because I know Custodes aren't very popular. But Danny's a really great guy, and I really wanted to get him back, and just wanted to sort of demonstrate like a suicide mission almost, and a mission of great importance, particularly because Valdor is included in the list there. So for me, I wanted kind of like a suicide mission almost, you know, at all costs. So Danny and Spencer don't know that I've built the Zone Mortalis board. So my idea was to have, you know, the Custodes have gone in with the Sisters of Silence, they've captured this, or they've secured this document, and they need to get it off world. And they've kind of said, well, the Iron Warriors are waiting for us, we need a diversion. You know, they know we've come for this document. We can either, you know, we can, you know, set a decoy. So who's had the document? I don't know this, you know, has it gone with the Sisters? In Zone Mortalis? Has Valdor led the charge in Zone Mortalis? I just don't know the result. So I really wanted Danny and Spencer to think about this game when they arrive. I'm going to go through it with them. I'm going to surprise them with the Zone Mortalis board. So I'll go on to the Zone Mortalis board, build board in a second. I just want to quickly get the city fight board done. Super easy board, you know. So using the city fight tiles from Forge World. And the big landing pad here, you know, the Orion sat on top here when Danny arrives. We'll pop it there. Terrain is going to be really, really dense. It'll be down to the Iron Warriors to pick their lines of fire, and it'll be really interesting to see how many Custodes he can bring down with bolt of fire. You know, it's always about saturation of fire, isn't it? Anyway, I'm not going to go on too much about it because you've just watched the game. I obviously haven't even, I'm building this before, so I haven't even seen the game. So just as exciting for me as it perhaps was for you before you started watching the game. A couple of things to note. I've filled this section in over here. It's a really weird one because you have to put buildings inside the confines of the walls here, which I thought was pretty weird. So I've just built this space. It's super basic. I haven't got around to putting tiles on it or etching a design into it. I've just been so busy. I built this probably about 8 months ago, maybe even a year ago, and I just haven't had time to do it. But anyway, it fits beautifully in this gap and just allows a nice big flat base. And we're going to put a large building on there. And all we're trying to do is just create a really, really dense city. I've put some barricades at the front of this section. This is where the Iron Warriors will deploy. It's just going to be a classic hammer and anvil, and the Custodes are going to deploy somewhere in the 24 inches here. So all I'm going to do is just put as much terrain on as possible. I've made some really clear lines of sight through here. I'm going to probably put a building here but have the damage section this side and the larger section here, so Danny can come through here and eventually get to the Orion. And don't forget, very quickly, Forge World made these years ago. They were like a subway entrance, like an underground passage entrance. I really love these. They're so hard to get hold of. There's a lot of China cast on various trading sites and on Facebook groups and stuff, but this is an original, which I was really pleased to secure. And it's just been painted up quite quickly, but that will serve as the entry point. So the units going through Zone Mortalis, if they make it to the end of the board or through the door at the end, they will emerge here in the back of the Iron Warriors line. So Daniel will need to really decide about what units he's going to put into Zone Mortalis, whether they're going to make it through the Iron Warriors forces. Spencer needs to decide what forces he's putting down there. I'm going to suggest 500 points each in Zone Mortalis and then 2k on the tabletop. And as I said, if those units make it through the Iron Warriors and through the back door, as it were, they will emerge through a service lift, I guess, and they will come out here. So really, only troops only, because you're not going to get Galatas, or you're not going to get the Telmon Dreadnought through that little door. So troops only. And Danny may have decided to put the package in one of the units in the Zone Mortalis force and run it that way, and then pop up late game, turn 5, turn 6, and all Danny has got to do is get in contact with that Orion, and then he has won the game. I think it's going to be either a win or loss, and just to kind of demonstrate that desperate mission that we're trying to convey here in the kind of the narrative of the mission. So I put that super close, just there. So the Orion will be fairly central, and it will literally be probably a 6-inch walk from that door. So, you know, if turn 5, a unit from the Custodes emerges from the door, Spencer needs to make sure he's got enough forces out of harm's way to intercept the troops. But then it might be an absolute ploy from Danny, and you know, you could have a unit of Custodes come over here, get to the Orion, but Spencer thinks it's in one of the units in there, and you know, so it's all about bluffing each other throughout the game. Anyway, enough of that. I'm not going to talk too much about the billboard. You know how a billboard. I'm just going to put the stuff on using amazing terrain from Unreal Wargaming Studios. Please check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Absolute top quality terrain. I shall be getting a load more, hopefully. And don't forget, Griff is starting to make Adeptus Titanicus terrain as well, which is essentially these but shrank. And believe me, the channel's going to go all out on that stuff. We're going to produce some really, really interesting boards and try and combine them with the Forge World Realm of Battle tiles for Adeptus Titanicus. So really, really excited about that. Griff hasn't given us a lead time just yet on the AT terrain, but I reckon maybe, I don't know, 2-3 months time, maybe June time, we'll probably see those, and hopefully the channel will get some, and we'll do a billboard as well with those items. But anyway, without further ado, let's get on with it. Wouldn't be complete without my favourite piece of terrain. I'm just going to put these here. Perhaps grey on grey is probably not the best choice. I might get some different coloured ones. I did have a statue to put on here during the 40k one, but I have no idea where it's gone. So I'm going to use the 40k Bastion. It will look a bit odd because the door is quite high, but we can sort that out later with some rubble and stuff. But because the camera will probably be facing this way most of the time, if I can't make it quite work, I'm just going to rotate it slightly so you probably won't see it, so it won't look so weird for the duration of the game. But I will try my best to try and put some sort of door or some sort of steps up to it, just to make sure it makes sense. It's really important that the boards make sense. I think that's pretty much it, really. I'm going to put some roofs on these larger buildings, make the steps, then just do the normal. Going to put some slate down on some of the bigger areas, some smaller slate on top, and then just some of that really fine black aggregate, I guess I brought from the Aquarian shop. Just to kind of blend all the edges in. There's a few brown bits and stuff that I want to just eradicate. Obviously I'll do the usual barrels and crates and all that sort of stuff. Once 2k of each force has been deployed, it will really fill the board up, so I don't want to go overboard with terrain in this one. Yeah, and then once that Orion's on that landing pad, there's probably not a lot of room for the ironworks. It's going to be a bit tight. Okay, that's it for me. I'm just gonna put the finer stuff down now, and it's just gonna be quite light. I'm not gonna go overboard with it. Again, it would have been perhaps handy to have my airbrush here, but again, that's at home. I've been furiously painting recently, so but that's okay. Just gonna cover the front of these barricades up, you know, almost like they've been fitted fairly recently. I'm going to put some smaller rocks on those as well, and that will just help blend them in, which will be great to the board. It'll add a bit of grey back to the board as well, because at the moment the contrast of the black and grey is quite hard. Just one bit on here. It's going to spread a little bit around, not too much. We'll just blow some of that around in a bit. We're just creating contrast, so it's a bit more interesting for you guys when you watch the battle reports. I think it's pretty much there. I know it's not an elaborate build this time, but I don't think it needs to be. Just gonna get the smaller rocks. Yeah, I'm fairly pleased with that. I'm going to put barrels and crates down next. Right, that is it for this board. We're now going to go onto the Zone Mortalis board. Here it is. Here's the Zone Mortalis board. As you can see, it's super simple. I reckon the sisters or the custodes will start at this end. The Iron Warriors will start here. I think it's just going to be a 6 inches in, and then all the sisters or the custodes rather, or Danny has got to do is get from this side to this door. If he passes through this door, he's made it through up the service elevator, and then he pops out on the landing pad, and then that'll kind of put some units in the Iron Warriors deployment zone. So it's going to be quite interesting. I've made it really simple, you know, it's just going to be a gun line. There is a good line of sight, so there'll be some cover offered by this pipeline, and I kind of just see this as like a sub-relay station, maybe like a waterworks treatment plant or something, you know. The custodes have realised that they need a plan B just in case the resistance on the surface is quite high, and they've done like a sneaky decoy almost. So it's quite heavily protected. I don't know, maybe the city are worried about their water treatment plant, so there's the plant rather. So there's 2 bunkers here. I just wanted to make it as interesting as possible. I have made it possible to start here and go this way, but it's quite a long route. So Danny might decide that he's going to split some forces off, maybe have like a really tough unit come down the front, and maybe some sisters, or maybe, I don't know, a smaller contingent of custodes go around the side. There is an exit, there is a point here, so Danny can go this way, or equally Spencer can divert his forces, delay them for a couple of turns, and then come out in the middle unmolested, and then maybe catch the sisters or the custodes in a crossfire. It's totally their decision, you know, whatever they want to do, but I just wanted to do something a little bit different. I think the way we'll film this is that after, you know, the guys will do their movement phase, and then they'll go Custodes movement phase turn 1 underground, and then they'll document the movement phase there. We're not going to show any shooting attacks, dice rolls in this particular segment. It's purely just going to be almost like a narrative or story part of the game. And then if the Custodes make it through, they pop out on the landing pad, and then that's when we'll start filming them in more detail. So I've built a temporary screen behind me, as you can see. So we're going to be very specific about how we film this. And we might even film it as a top down. The whole thing might be top down. Haven't quite worked it out yet, but nonetheless, you'll still see what's going on. So as you can see, 3, 6, 9, I've used 12 tiles, a load of doors. I've put a couple of computers. I've got a computer here and a computer terminal here, and if Danny or Spencer decide to open or close the doors, they can do that. I'm not going to make the doors locked because I really want the Custodes to make a concerted effort, and I don't want them to be hampered by the doors, particularly if Danny puts sisters down here. They obviously don't have melter bombs, so they can't break the doors down. So all Spencer will have to do is just sit behind a locked door and go, well, you can't get to me, so it's a bit of a waste of time. So all the doors will be open. I can almost imagine that the Custodes have planned the exit, and they've accessed the relevant terminals they need to access, and they've made all the doors open. Because that's kind of the sort of power and control that they can have, I guess. But anyway, that's the Zone Mortalis board. I haven't done a board build video because it's super simple. Just some tiles, a bit of terrain, some pipes just to make it look interesting, and I've used the shadow wall terrain here just to kind of create a feature, but that's it. I really hope you've enjoyed this. Hopefully it gives you an insight about how the boards are built on the channel. I have to confess, this was thought about in the shower this morning. So about 6:30 this morning I thought, I need something a little bit different for this game, and it'd be really cool to have a dual aspect game. And it's the first time we've done this on the channel, and I'm super keen to do more dual aspect games, and might need to build a second booth if they become popular, because then we can do linked games, like live linked games. So we've got 6x4, and then stuff that happens underground, Zone Mortalis, has an effect on the wider battle on top of the surface. Equally, it means that if this format works, we can then do Adeptus Titanicus games that perhaps have a live impact on a 6x4 game. And then maybe if we get really ambitious, we can do a Zone Mortalis, Adeptus Titanicus, and 30k scale type of game. Now they obviously take a lot of organising and a lot of sorting out. So my appeal to you is that if you are great at writing scenarios and you love all the linked things, and you can produce a series of documents that will tell a narrative game and include all the rules for that to work, then please get in touch with me directly. It's david@the30kchannel.com. Discuss with me your ideas, and if you want to lead a project in conjunction with the channel, then I would love to have you on board. I would love to do this, but you know, I work full time, and I just don't have the time or the resources to do it at the moment. But things will change very soon. So if you're keen on doing something like that for the channel, we'll get you down here. Ideally, you need to live in the UK, and you need to be close to Peterborough or Huntingdon, because the channel's about to move very soon. So if you're fairly close, or you can spare one day a month, or one day every 3 months, that'd be great to write this sort of campaign and organise the forces, organise the players, then we'd love to hear from you and trying to really help me out with that. It just means that the games on the channel are a lot more diverse. It's not just me, Dan, and soon to be James writing all the scenarios. It's good to have other people's influences and input. You know, I don't know everything, and this sort of thing isn't my strong point. My strong point is the boards and the organising of the games and facilitating, rather than sitting down with the nitty gritty and if this happens, that'll impact that part of the game, and if this happens, then that happens, and that's not my strong suit. Anyway, that's enough. If you're keen, please get in touch, and we'll see you soon.